Sean Deveney, Athlon Sports. We're going to talk a little association hoops here on the Sam Bourquin Show. Sean, good afternoon. How we doing?
I'm doing well. How are you, Sam?
I'm doing well. No rest for the wicked. I mean, the finals finally get underway tomorrow. Tibbs gets fired in New York. The Suns poach one of the assistants from the Cavaliers today. There's a lot going on. Let me start with the New York and Thibodeau getting fired. The news came down yesterday, almost right before I came on the air, and I had to squint and looked at it real funny for a little bit, and I said, okay, this is legit. I was shocked earlier, and then a little bit later on, I read some stuff. I thought, okay, well, I could maybe see. But I woke up today and I said, nah, I'm not buying it. I don't get it. Why they made that move. Why did they fire Tom Thibodeau, Sean?
Yeah, I think it's a fair question. I mean, this is something that is sort of like the way the Knicks used to operate, before Leon Rose came in, where they would make some knee-jerk reactions, mostly fueled by the owner, Jim Dolan. But it seemed like since Leon Rose took over there 5-6 years ago, that they had put that behind them. They were going for stability. They were building.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a bit of a surprise. Now, there were a couple possibilities. The first one is just that what they've said is true, and that is that they've said they want to have a championship coach, and the implication there is that they don't think Thibodeau is that guy. Certainly, he hasn't won a championship, so there's some evidence that that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
The only other possibilities are that they have another coach in mind, that they have somebody in the offing that they want to bring in. What's come out of New York so far doesn't seem to indicate that that's the case, but that's one possibility. And the other possibility is that they've got a player in mind. That they want to make a trade. They want to acquire somebody, perhaps a Kevin Durant, in the off season, and they didn't think Thibodeau was the guy to sort of oversee that. So those are the couple other possibilities. But I think the first one is at least a factor there. They just didn't think Thibodeau was the guy who's going to get them over the hump.
Sean, I'm going to go with you on your last point. I think there could be some player movement, whether it's something, and I think maybe that didn't jive with the way Tibbs wanted to do business, and I think maybe behind the curtain, that was the last thing. They said, okay, well, this isn't going to work long term, so they're going to show him the door. Piggybacking off of that, Sean, Giannis Antetokounmpo's name has been thrown out there. Obviously, Kevin Durant. There's some other kind of fringe stars maybe the Knicks would like to get their hands on. But as you know, in this league with the salary cap, you got to give to get. What would New York be willing to give up to make a big splash deal?
Yeah, and that's the real question mark, is what they'd be willing to give up and what teams would be willing to take in return. So, it's easy to say, well, we'll trade you Karl Anthony Towns, but not every team is going to want Karl Anthony Towns. So that's going to be part of the issue. The Knicks also, don't forget, gave up 5 first-round draft picks to get Mikal Bridges, and the fact is that they just don't have the picks to go ahead and make a deal. If you want to get Giannis from Milwaukee, you're going to have to give them a lot of draft picks. They're going to have to rebuild. They're going to have to start fresh. They're going to want a lot of draft picks, and the Knicks just don't have them. That's why Durant is a much more realistic option. So you could make a trade that's built around Karl Anthony Towns. I don't think they want to do that. I do think that front office at least still has a lot of faith in Karl Anthony Towns. So I don't think they want to go there, but more likely is something built around, OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson, and then, maybe a couple of the young players who didn't get much of a look under Tom Thibodeau, and whatever draft capital the Knicks can offer. That's probably what they're looking to move if they're going to make any kind of blockbuster deal here.
Sean Deveney, Athlon Sports, covers the NBA big time, but we got him here on the Sam Bourquin Show, 1310 WDPN. Sean, what pieces in your mind are the Knicks away from taking the next step? And that would be to get to the finals and then maybe to win it. What do they need to add to that mixing bowl to get them to the next level?
Yeah, I'm not sure that they needed all that much, and that's why I think a lot of people didn't think that this move was coming, that, they could see the progress. They had some ill-timed injuries and things like that. And so I think there was a sense that, if you just kind of stayed the course, especially with the East sort of generally taking a step back, that you might be in position to get back here next year and advance, maybe with some smaller moves around the edges. Obviously, they need another big man. They need a little more versatility. They need to be able to defend better. If you're going to have Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson on the floor together, that's two defensive weak spots, and we saw that the Knicks had a hard time covering up for that. So they've either got to find ways to better stagger those guys, or to get better defensive players who can cover up what they're lacking. Most likely a shot blocking big man, that sort of thing. So that's where they are. I don't think they're that far, especially in the Eastern Conference, from being an NBA Finals team. And again, that's why that's one of the real surprises of this whole thing.
Sean, one more on the Knicks, and we'll skedaddle out of there. We'll talk a little Cavs and go a little NBA Finals. I read a story earlier today, and the article published 4 names that thought might be maybe in the Knicks' wheelhouse to be their head coach. I said yesterday, Michael Malone. Everybody thinks that. I thought that would be their number one guy. But I saw Jay Wright, John Calipari, Jeff Van Gundy. Who else is out there maybe that they might want to talk to?
Yeah, I mean, those are certainly some of the big names, and I'm not sure that those guys are realistic. I think you call Jeff Van Gundy and at least see what's there. I don't think he really wants. I mean, it's been a while since Jeff has been the head man on a sideline, and there's some question about whether he really wants to really wants to do that. So I don't think that's real. Jay Wright is to me, if you're going to hire a college coach, that's the only guy who you could get for the Knicks. Because of the relationship to the Villanova players, but also just because he's a guy who has some experience coaching NBA players. I mean, don't forget that he was with USA basketball in the Olympics, so he has a lot of experience with those kinds of guys. So he'd really be the only one. I've seen Danny Hurley. I have a hard time believing that. I think that a couple guys who have won championships, Mike Budenholzer and Frank Vogel, who are maybe not the most exciting guys, but those are guys who I would assume that the Knicks would at least want to talk to. Of course, Johnny Bryant was mentioned there as well, given his links to the Knicks front office. So there's a few names out there, but I'm like you. I thought it was going to be Mike Malone or bust, and it doesn't seem to be that way at this point.
Jay Wright to me has got the makeup. That's the kind of guy I want. I wanted when Ohio State got rid of Holtman, I wanted Ohio State to go hard after Jay Wright, but he was content being behind the camera doing some TV. If the Knicks come a call, maybe he'll listen. I don't know, but we'll certainly find out. All right, let's switch our attention out to the Cavaliers in their offseason now, which has been underway for a little over 3 weeks, almost a month now. Everything has kind of calmed down a little bit, and now they got to get into action and put together a plan for the offseason and maybe make some moves. We'll see. Do you see the Cavaliers, A, making any kind of a big splash that's within the salary cap restrictions, or B, do they run it back with almost everybody intact again?
Yeah, it's going to be a tough summer for them because they're likely to lose Ty Jerome, just because of being in that second apron, and they've given out these extensions that they're all coming home to roost at this point.
Mm-hmm.
The DeAndre Hunter trade was that was the move, and that sort of set this team in stone, and so it becomes really difficult to make any kind of deal. Really, Darius Garland is the only piece that you've got who could potentially be on the move, and there'd be some logic to that just because you want to maybe have a better defensive backcourt with Donovan Mitchell. You could he's a little easier to replace than Donovan Mitchell, a little easier to replace than pretty much anybody else that they would make the deal. And he's he is eligible for an extension for 2 years and $128 million. They're not going to give him that. I'd be shocked if they did.
Mm-mm.
But the fact that he's getting up near that extension time, that's the time you want to try to trade somebody if you can. So, he to me, he's really the only guy who makes any sense for them to move, and I'm not sure they're going to go that way.
Does a Garland for Jalen Suggs, does that move the meter for you at all, or anybody else you could maybe wheel and deal with if you're gonna move Darius, what you would maybe try to get back in return?
Yeah, I mean, to me, look, Garland's a better player than Jalen Suggs. He just is. So the question becomes, is it a better fit? Is it a better fit for you? And that's what it comes down to is if the Cavaliers make a move, they're probably not going to get better in terms of talent and how they look on paper. It's going to be about fit and maybe can we save some money here? And that's not them being cheap. That's, they're in a situation now where they've spent enough to where, they're going to have to start giving up draft picks, where their draft pick in 2033 is going to be frozen. So, they're going to have to look at some moves around the edges to see if there's ways to A, save money, and B, still be a team that has a good fit. The Karl Anthony Towns trade is a good example. What the Knicks and Timberwolves did, where the Timberwolves had to trade him to get out of their financial mess, and they wind up trading him to the Knicks. They get Randall and DiVincenzo, save a little bit of money, and they wind up being a better team for it too. So that's the kind of thing that that you could potentially see the Cavs do, but that's going to be a tough deal to find.
Sean Deveney is our guest. Check him out. Athlon Sports does a great job covering everything in the NBA. Speaking of, the finals are finally going to commence tomorrow night. Game 1. Big favorites, man. I mean, I cannot believe the amount of money you got to plunk down just for the Oklahoma City just to win the series. It's like the experts don't think Indiana has a chance. I disagree, Sean. I think just their heart in their chemistry and their coaching and their will and their spunk, I got them winning at least 2 games here. What do you say?
I agree with you. I mean, people have made the very big mistake of writing off this team in each of the last 2 rounds. And, certainly in Cleveland, I don't think anybody takes them too lightly. And certainly in New York, they don't now either. This is a team that has a certain level of toughness, has a certain level of grit, but also, they're going to play their way. They're going to play their style. And chances are they're going to make you play their style more often than you want to. And that's what they did against the Cavs. That's what they did against the Knicks, sort of on a macro level. They just forced their pace on you. And in the playoffs, teams aren't used to that. So that's going to be their approach. The problem that they have is that Oklahoma City can play fast. I mean, they can do that, and they can do it in some instances better than the Pacers do. So in a 7-game series, I'd have a hard time seeing the Pacers winning 4 games. At the same time, I can't see them losing 4 in a row or losing 4 out of 5. I think this is definitely a 6-game series. In my view, I just think that the things that the Pacers do, if their shots are on, you're just not going to beat them. And they've shown that throughout the postseason.
So what do you think the ratings will be like? A lot of folks are poo-pooing because of the small market and everything. I'm hoping that a lot of people tune in to watch, because I think if you can get even the casual fan in front of the set for 1 game or a half, I think they're going to like what they see, and I think they might stick around. How do you think this plays out?
Yeah, this is sort of where the rubber hits the road for the NBA, because the NBA has been saying for, about 15 years now that it wants to be like the NFL, where anybody can come in and have a chance to win a championship year after year, and we get different champions. And, okay, you want that. Okay, now you've got Indiana and Oklahoma City, 2 of the, 5 smallest markets in the NBA. Are the TV sponsors, the broadcasters going to be okay with that? And is that going to be something that really works out in terms of people watching? I agree with you. I hope people do, because I think that both of these teams are pretty exciting to watch, pretty fun to watch, a lot of compelling storylines. But this is to me, it's also dangerous territory for the league, because if this doesn't work, if this is a disaster, then they're gonna have to start thinking about the the way they've constructed it. Because one thing that they've done, it's not so much the small markets, it's also the fact that they've taken away the ability of a team to really have a dynasty, even like the Spurs. Like you can't have that anymore. And so you're not going to, so I wonder, as much as the league was against those dynasties, I think they did drive ratings because people wanted to see, these teams that they were familiar with. They wanted to see, I hate this team, I want to watch them lose, or that I love this team, I want to watch them win.
Yeah, it's good to have a villain every once in a while. Sean, before I let you go, I was doing a little digging on a couple of Vegas books. The odds for the Knicks to hire their new coach, Michael Malone, is plus 125. Johnny Bryant is next at plus 400. Yeah. Jay Wright, Mike Budenholzer, Rick Brunson are all at plus 1,500. So you're right on there, brother.
God help them. God help them if they hire Rick Brunson. I mean, there's already a lot of players who are like kind of roll their eyes at the fact that Rick Brunson is one of their assistant coaches. If they make him the head coach, oh my goodness.
You imagine that?
You're going to get some revolts there, no question.
That would be a circus. Sean, I appreciate the knowledge, man. Anytime you come on, it's a lot of fun. And enjoy the NBA Finals. Take care.
All right, thanks, Sam.
You got it. Sean Deveney.